Hi, Steve.
Hey, Jim.
So last week we did our New Year's resolutions for 2026, vinyl-wise, of course. This week, why don't we do some predictions for 2026, vinyl-wise? Do you have any predictions you want to share?
Wow, that's a good one, Jim. Let me think. I know. I predict that we're going to have someone come in and talk to us about the record industry. That would be good.
Well, check this out. And welcome once again to Two Guys Talking About Records, a vinyl community podcast where each week we two guys, Steve and I on this side here, get together and talk about records. But this week we're adding a third wheel into this mix. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Ken Norton. He is an account manager from All Media Supply, a guy I've worked with for several years here at the record store. And happy to have him on to talk a little bit this week. But Ken, hi. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me.
So I guess I'll finish the intro. My name is Jim, by the way, and I own a record store.
And I'm Steve. I am a record collector.
And we have already introduced you to Ken. I guess I'm doing things backwards. It must be all the snow we're getting here in Michigan, guys. I'm telling you.
And that's fine. You keep it, man. Just keep it.
Although we did lose most of it. We had a ton, and then we lost a lot. Now it's coming down again. But that's, we're not here to talk about the weather, are we? We're here to talk about records.
And lettuce.
And lettuce. Well, yes. That's another channel, Steve. But we brought Ken on board this week to be the other side. Steve and I can talk from the store owner and the collector side of things, but Ken's going to give us a little insight from the record slinger deal. Is it wrong to call you a record slinger?
I've been slinging records for a very long time, one way or another.
And you are the guy that the record stores like mine deal with of a certain size. I mean, there's some record stores that will go directly to the labels, but we're talking the big ones, right?
Yeah, more and more. The major distributors do not want to work directly with stores. It's just not what they do. But so they work through us, and we help stores stock their records. I would say probably 95% of stores use a wholesaler like us.
And All Media Supply, you guys are one of the biggies for the country.
That's right, yeah. There's two large ones, several small ones too. All have their things that they can rest their laurels on. But if you want everything, including imports, including smallest labels, you'd probably have to work with AMS, or there's one competitor. We'll leave them out for now.
It's not just records either. You guys do music and movies and all sorts of cool things.
Yeah. CDs, which are making a pretty nice comeback too. Nothing like records, but we sell a lot of CDs now as well. Wow. And we carry movies too, yeah. And we have a sister company that carries books, but it's a sister company.
Well, cool. Well, we'll dive into some of your thoughts for the upcoming year in a little bit here, Ken. But as Steve and I do each week on our podcast, we like to start off with just a quick little recap of some of our more recent additions to the collections. We'll defer to you first. Is there anything that you picked up to your vinyl collection that you want to show off real quick to our viewers?
Oh, me. Oh, I did bring something. Let's see here.
Something
not
cool
ridiculously new because it's from Black Friday. But very big fan of this record. This is my favorite Sun Volt record. And it was reissued with an additional disc of demos and other outtakes or other tracks that came out at the same time frame, which was really wheelhouse time for this band, in my opinion. So that's a great one. I've been playing that a lot.
That was a Black Friday release, right?
It was a Black Friday release. And this other one, a friend of mine bought for me for Christmas, but I've been really getting into it. And he was writing that I probably wouldn't have picked it out myself. It's on the sort of more jazzy, a little even post-rock side. But it's a member of Tortoise, Jeff Parker. And this is 4 sides. Each side is an entire live track from a combo recording from a cafe that they used to play in pretty regularly. And they're just really kind of take you to a different place. I really dig those.
And the None Such label is a very interesting and eclectic label with stuff too. Yeah. They go all over the map.
Yeah. Yeah, they sort of pride themselves on being like a little unmainstream, I suppose. If that's a word.
Well, very
Probably is.
cool. And you got the wall of CDs behind you, but it's good to know you're still bringing some vinyl in from time to time, right?
Yeah, well, when I buy new stuff for myself now, it's almost all vinyl, but I've had CDs for a long time too. And this happens to be the room where they're all sitting on shelves.
Hey, they're making a comeback, I hear.
Yeah, they really are.
We'll put that into the expectations for 26 in a little bit here. How about you, Steve? What are you showing off this week for the acquisitions?
Well, before I show, I want just to kind of bring this up. It's more personal. We don't like to do a lot of that, but I had to have my yearly physical this week, and so I go in, and their little cholesterol was up a little bit, blood pressure was up a little bit. He's looking, God, you're right on that border, kind of getting high. I go, so what do you suggest? And he looks and goes, well, I suggest really you eat better. I said, eat better? I says, like what? He goes, maybe you should have more lettuce. I go, more lettuce? So I went to the record store and I got two albums from Lettuce. And I'm going to tell you right now, I feel so much better after having these. I feel healthy. I've been taking my blood pressure every day. It's lowered. So the group Lettuce does help you health-wise. And I just want to point this out, Jim. Okay. And for everyone out there, it's been approved by the CDC and the FDA and everybody else. Yep. They all say lettuce is good for you. So the first one, Jim and I, it's the brand new album from Lettuce called Cook. And Jim showed this last week. It does have a recipe in there of recipes that you could make. Some of it kind of go, I don't know how healthy that. Well, actually, I think it all is supposed to be healthy.
It's all lettuce.
This is just a fun group.
It's all salad.
It's all lettuce. It's all salad on Coke-based vinyl. This is one of those that came in like 20 different varieties of colors and stuff. But this is a little more soulful. I think you would agree, more soul than the harder funk.
Yep.
Now,
jazz feel spots to it too.
Yes. And from Radio Wasteland Records, I did order this Lettuce Rage. And so because lettuce is all the rage, again, we're trying to get healthy beginning of the year. So it is all the rage going on. This actually has one of their hits on here that now I'm trying to find it. Move On Up. Actually, they do a great cover of Move On Up, which is really, really nice. But this was very good. Rage came out in, oh, well, I didn't look that one up.
It's in
the early teens. Yeah, it's like their third album.
Yep.
And they've put out quite a few albums. But I can't, Lettuce will help you health-wise and make you feel better and make you dance. So we had that going on.
Perhaps down the line, Steve, we should do an episode devoted specifically to the food pyramid of vinyl.
Yes, and how it can help you become better.
There we go. And plus, by the way, side note to this, Ken, I apologize, but I follow Steve's social media. He posts a lot of his meal pictures, and I've seen more lettuce in the past 5 minutes than I have in several years on your socials.
It's like we're going to have a salad, so I put one piece of lettuce on the plate.
There we go.
And then everything else. I mean, God, lettuce I used to think is boring. Now I think lettuce is funky.
It's funky, man.
So,
all right.
Yep. This was a really neat pickup. Maya Delilah, The Long Way Round. And she's a guitarist out of the UK, a jazz guitarist. She does her music's jazz and soul. This is her debut album. And if you like Nora Jones, you would like her. It is just drop dead gorgeous. A nice colored orange vinyl. It's just beautiful album. I saw this on someone's best of for the year, and it intrigued me. It's off of the Blue Note label, and because you definitely have that jazz guitar type sound, but there's more. There's one that's even a real funky track on here. So it's really nice stuff. I've really been digging this thing. Maya Delilah, really nice, out of Britain, her debut album. And someone else showed this. This was a reissue that came out. Garrison King Combo. And this is out of Brazil. This came out in 1977 in Brazil. And this is pure funk again. This guy liked James Brown. I'm just going to tell you right now. He was a fan of James Brown. You could tell by the music. This album did really well in Brazil. But incredible funk. And it's just with that Brazilian touch to it. Soulful also. Really was amazed at this album and totally liked it. So it's these, year in, we do all these best of videos that I like to watch to find out all the stuff I've missed and then go out and blow my money that I wasn't going to spend for the year. So I've been highly successful at doing this.
There goes the resolution.
Yeah, resolution number 1 out the window, man. But really good. Garrison King Combo. Anybody that enjoys funk music, you would really, really like this. And this was reissued last year.
Okay.
And that's all I got for today, Jim.
All righty then. I'm going to be completely and totally predictable. So hold on to your hats here with my pickups this week. I picked
Rush.
up another copy of Rush and Moving Pictures. Now,
because 5's not enough.
5's not enough, but I picked this up, Steve, simply because it is a red vinyl copy that came out in 2015. And I didn't have a red vinyl version of this. I picked up a white one. This one actually had been kind of sought after for a while. It's limited edition on the back. It's up there with my favorite Rush albums. I think we talked about that before, but one of their bigger ones. But the red album, the red vinyl version of this has been a little elusive. I'd been looking for that for a while, and I actually had several copies of this in the store, back 3-4 years ago. This was readily available, and this one showed up, and I thought I'm gonna snag a hold of this one and have the red version in there along with the black and the white for whatever reason. And
Jim, I just want to say you do not have to justify your Rush issues with us, man. You're happy, we're happy.
All right, I much appreciate it because my next pickup is also a Rush album. So this one, Ken, actually, this one I got from you guys. It was in the AMS list. This is an unofficial, I'll use the quote marks, unofficial, aka a bootleg album. And it's called Rush, the Complete 1974 Canadian Bandstand Broadcast, coming to us from Edition Speciale Records. I'm assuming it's an import label from these. And this is coming on pink vinyl, so it's very, very pink vinyl. What this is this is a pre-Neil Peart performance from 1974 when John Rutsey, along with Alex and Getty, played at let me find exactly where it is here, at the Secord School. Let's see, it was the Laura Secord Secondary School in Toronto, I believe. I have that called up here. And it's not the best quality. It is absolutely not a great quality bootleg, but this is made up for from the fact that it is a very rare performance. These guys playing in a school. This was right after they had released their debut album, and they were doing some promotional tours at dance halls and schools, believe it or not. And this was recorded. And Ken, forgive me for this, but sometimes these unofficial labels out of Europe play fast and loose with their descriptions to try to make them a little more attractive to people like me when they bring them in. So to call this a Canadian Bandstand Broadcast technically is true. It was recorded, it was filmed, if you will, the performance for a television show called Canadian Bandstand. But to call it a broadcast is not going to be quite up there, because the audio of this comes from like second and third generation recordings of this. I think it was like a videotape transfer of the film of the initial recording. This has been out there. You can find the video to this on YouTube of these guys playing in a small school auditorium for people just kind of sitting there looking at them as they're belting out working, man. It's like, what the hell am I listening to here? But yeah, even on the inside too, this is very cool. They've got a lot of photographs of the event, but it's pretty much taken right off of the VHS transfer. So even the photos on the inside. But I got this simply because it's neat to have something like this on vinyl, and this has been bootlegged a few times before, but it's the first time I've picked up that kind of a bootleg of that. But a very interesting time for Rush in the pre-Neil Peart era, where they were more blues, rock centric with their first album. And I think there's a couple of covers on this as well. Oh, Best I Can, I've Been Running, Bad Boy the Loser, some of their early stuff. So there we go. And All Media Supply, you guys are pretty cool, Ken, for picking up some of these cool things from time to time that we bring in that are very unique. So kudos to your buyers for finding that stuff.
Yeah, I got quite a few Cramps ones back in my collection because of that.
Yep. So what we do every week, folks, if you're curious about some of the things that we are listening to and adding to our collection, and we'll give you a chance to listen in on that as well by making a Spotify playlist. You can find that link to that playlist in the description of both our YouTube episode and on the BLEAVE Network episode, as well as Spotify. That should show up in there. Click on that link and you can listen to selected cuts from most of these. I can't find all of them, but from time to time, Steve throws me a curveball, but we'll do our best to kind of put those in there and give you guys a chance to listen in. So onward to 2026 and what this new year and new vinyl brings us. And this is why we wanted Steve and I wanted to bring Ken on board to give us a little bit of the other perspective. Steve and I can talk all day long about what we want and what we hope and what we would like to see. But Ken, you're going to give us hopefully some insight on, what is happening here in the world of vinyl. And we gave a little bit of background of what you guys do at AMS and bringing on this stuff in. But above and beyond that, personally, and you and all of the other sales folks there really do your best to keep in tune with what's going on with the labels. And can you tell us a little bit about how you stay up to date with what's going on and what is coming up in this wonderful industry?
Oh, sure. So it's really kind of twofold. The one way is we receive lots of information in advance so that our buyers and our sales staff can make good decisions about how much to bring in of these new records for street date. So usually we receive that information about 6 or 7 weeks before something comes out, and the order might be due to, let's just say, Warner Brothers by 5 weeks or 4 weeks before the record comes out, so that they can make enough and have it ready in the distribution pipeline and on out to us in time to get it to the stores, in time to get it there for a street date that they set up. Though that's the sort of regular printed version of PDFs and things that send us over, new release books and that sort of thing. But we also have regular calls with some of the labels where their folks present to us, in a conference call, basically what they're doing and what's coming up and what they're excited about. And a little more detail, we have a chance to ask them questions. So if they say, well, we're going to put this out, and we might ask them, well, how's that different than the last time it was out, and they can give us that information. So our customers can make good decisions about which records to bring in or how many to bring in of something that's new or a reissue that's somehow a little bit different than what was out there before.
So obviously a record company would never try to snow you with anything to say, oh no, this is the greatest thing in the whole wide world. Much better than the last one that didn't sell. You wouldn't do that, right?
It's their job to represent the labels and the artists that they work with. Let's put it that way.
I think
they will seldom say that this is not as good as the last record.
No, of course not. That's bad marketing. But I guess I was a little surprised too that they are reactive enough to say and try to get a finger on the pulse of how many do you think of these are going to sell? Is that done during the pressing process? So they're really kind of cutting it that close?
In some cases they are. Manufacturing is a little quicker to market now than it was, say, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when we had all kinds of manufacturing issues, lack of capacity and that sort of thing. So they're closer to caught up than they used to be. But they may already, let's make up a record and say the Screaming Nobody's record is coming in April, and we're talking about it in the first week of March. And everybody on our side, and maybe some other people they're talking to, say, we're hearing a lot about this record. It's going to be big. We're going to buy quite a lot of it. So even though it might be already in press, or the first pressing might already be in the works, they may say, okay, well, we now see we don't have enough in the works. Yeah. Let's add, as soon as we can, the next 5,000, 10,000, to the pipeline. And that way, even if it's not ready for the day the record comes out, they've already got some in the pipeline so that they can replenish the ones that sell through, when those records are new releases. And of course, when something's brand new, that's the most likely time for it to sell.
Yeah, you basically have a window of a week or two before the interest kind of wanes, I would think, in some cases. Not everybody, but in some cases, you got to hit while it's hot.
That's where most of it is. There's plenty of records sell after that too. But a lot of the juice is the first week.
Yeah, I could see that. There are those albums that are the slow burners. It takes a while, and then through social media now, things can take off. Obviously, this podcast, two guys talking about records, and we show records, there's this sudden surgence of sales on these. I mean, it's pretty incredible. We should start sending you a list of what we're going to show. That would probably just help you out.
Really probably should, yeah.
So, Ken, what overall? I mean, is there a big picture of what we as a store owner and Steve as a collector and everybody else in the vinyl community can look forward to in 2026? Is there a bigger overarching thing that's going to shake up the industry, or are we just looking to continually improve on what's happening?
So the industry's not broken, so I don't think they want to shake it up. Vinyl sales are great, and they keep going up year over year, have been for, 15, 16 years in a row, something like that. So I don't think they want to break the model. I don't expect we'll see anything dramatically different this year, but it's a copycat industry, and what does work will continue to be, they'll look for more things just like that have worked before.
That's exactly what I was saying, Jim. This is what we've been talking about so often, is especially like Record Store Day, they try out this new thing, and if it sells well, you're going to see a bunch of it coming in.
Yeah, there's definitely some of that, and then that's a whole subtopic is Record Store Day and how that works, but how those are chosen and what comes out there, but.
Well, so is the 3-inch vinyl going to have a resurgence? Because that's kind of fallen off. I haven't seen much of the 3-inch vinyl lately.
Well, I can't say. I personally don't know anybody who's bought those. So maybe it's a something market that I'm not seeing, but
you can get the Beatles in 3-inch.
Well, it's a collectible,
Yeah, the 3-inch was kind of a little Record Store Day thing. They put out the mini turntables through Crosley a few years ago, and then they kicked them out a little bit at a time. But didn't I'm going to forgive myself or boot myself for not remembering this off, but didn't a big box store just earlier this year introduce either like a 4-inch vinyl or something like a mini collectibles?
Yeah, I think I heard about that. I wish I could tell you the details. I don't remember. I just remember hearing something.
I don't know. It escaped me, and I didn't think it was anything too big and beyond that a more serious collector would like. But you'd have to be a very specified one, I think, to go for something like that.
Well, it's a collectible, and of course, we all love collectibles of the bands that we love or artists we love.
Yeah.
But whether it's taking the place of people's listening habits, I don't think so. I wouldn't guess it is.
Yeah. What's Zoetrope looking like? I mean, we've seen more this last year. Obviously, it's been going. I remember when it first came out, Jim and I were doing this broadcast. We go, look at this, Zoetrope. What's that? And we're looking at it, and it just seems like it's gaining momentum out there, kind of as a way to, again, I already have this album. Now let's Zoetrope it.
Yeah, yeah. The Charlie Brown's Zoetrope was a huge seller this Christmas. It's an embellishment. It's I don't want to call it a gimmick because it is actually fairly cool from what I've seen. I don't know. I don't actually have any, but what I've seen and people have told me about it, it's pretty cool to what it can do, and adds a little bit of fun to the experience, I suppose. Because you're actually playing the record and at the same time seeing the visuals, right? So, from my personal standpoint, it's part of the listening experience, and that's all good. That's got some future potentially. If people enjoy it a little bit more while they're listening to it with the images, great.
I think the improvements made over the past couple of decades, and especially recently to picture discs, and the sound quality has really upped the game, and the ability to do that type of thing with essentially a picture disc. You can put that kind of animation in there and not suffer the sound quality lately with these, as opposed to like picture discs from the 80s and 70s where it literally told you this is going to sound like crap.
Yeah, they almost always did. Yeah, that's what I understand, is that they sound okay. And, they made a lot of improvements with, colored vinyl when first was a big deal. I didn't think, and I heard a lot of people say the same thing, it typically didn't sound as good as the black vinyl version of the same thing. But now they made a lot of improvements, and a lot of times there's just no difference.
Well, and Steve, you were at Third Man Pressing a while ago, and you saw them making and how they do the colored vinyl, and it's pretty impressive.
It is. And that was my exact question. Is the quality as good? And they just said, yes, it is. I mean, it sounds just as good. They've got that worked out. And I was at a different pressing plant here, Paramount, and the same thing. Yeah, it's been good. And personally, I put it on. I don't hear any difference. But in the past, I was like, oh, boy.
Yeah.
And from a collector standpoint, there are folks who say, I think I really do want that colored vinyl version of something simply because it's a little different. And I know that folks do seek that out, notwithstanding. I mean, that's a given. It's another way to reach into these collectors markets to get us to buy something that we already own, something. But again, that's the job of the labels, is to entice us into getting these.
Yeah. Well, a good point on that is that Pink Floyd, Jim, we were talking about the Wish You Were Here. So
yes.
How many types now are there?
Yep. And this leads us into the next question, Ken. Liquid filled vinyl. This seems to be, I'll use the word gimmick on this, but this seems to be something that we're seeing a lot more of. And Steve brought up, let me call this up here real quick. There is a version, they just did the 50th anniversary of Wish You Were Here, which the box set is phenomenal. The clear vinyl box set, Steve and I each have that. It's just absolutely a great collection piece. It sounds cool. It looks cool. They've got the flame colored Wish You Were Here that was put out as an import as well. And now there is a version of Wish You Were Here. I don't think it's the 50th anniversary remix, but it's one of the liquid filled vinyl versions. It's a quad liquid green, blue, yellow filled. It kind of matches some of the artwork from the album. We call this up here. Is this a thing that we could look forward to seeing a lot more of down the line, as these liquid fills?
I couldn't say that we are for sure. Like I said, it's kind of a copycat industry. So if it worked for a couple of records, then there's some other people deciding that, I think we could make a little more money if we put out a liquid vinyl version of this too. People would buy it again. But I haven't, in the releases that I've seen for the first 2-3 months of the year, I haven't seen any. So that's a quarter of the year almost now, and I don't think it's about to explode.
Okay. Well, the Record Store Day, they had a few in there. Yeah. The Eric Carr stuff in Record Store Day was kind of a big deal on those. And this one kind of slipped my radar with the Pink Floyd, but it's cool looking. I don't know as if I'd go. These, by the way, the Pink Floyd ones were pressed by a label called Bad World Limited. I'll call up some info on that in a moment. But the description on Discogs now said the quad-filled LP pressing comes in those 4 colors, released to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the album, but it was only available for a 72-hour pre-order window, and this company pressed only as many copies as were pre-ordered. So that, as you can imagine, turned it into an instant collectible on Discogs. And I don't know what the original list price was on that, but they range on Discogs now from $180 upwards to $312. So collectible is the key with something like that, I would think.
Yeah, anything limited, could potentially explode as far as demand and, then markup, on Discogs or wherever.
And I've not really heard like enough on the quality of this. I mean, you'd think that there would be quality issues, but I don't know enough about that. And folks that have bought them, I don't think seem to be concerned.
Our suggestion, if they do ask you about them at one of your meetings, is the liquid filled should be alcohol. That way, if it does break open, it's not a complete waste.
Who was it? There was an artist that actually had a little bit of their own blood in a certain pressing of the record.
Oh, yeah.
5 years ago or so. Who was that? I can't remember who it was.
Yeah. Steve, on the subject of this, let me call this back up here. I did look up the Bad World Limited. It's a UK company who, same team who run something called Blood Records. They specialize in liquid filled releases. And if I scroll down on here, Steve, there's a bunch of them in here with different liquids. I think there was a blue Caraco liquid, but there is a release that they did in 25 last year from Wet Leg, and a clear vinyl filled with moisturizer from Wet Leg. I didn't realize that this was out here as well, but it's a liquid filled, and okay. So you missed that one on there, Steve. I think that one goes like about $150 to $200 on there. But this company makes a ton of them, but again, that kind of escapes us a little bit from more of the mainstream stuff. These guys are more of a niche label filling this up, but once in a while they make it over, Ken, I think, to the larger labels for doing that. But that's not something that I think they're going to work on mass producing, simply because the cost on those is so much to produce. The end up suggested retail price on those is usually $100 plus. So that's going to be something that's going to, I think, personally remain to be tremendously limited.
Yeah. And from our standpoint too, what we see a lot of when a piece is very, very expensive, stores, the people we deal with are mostly independent record stores. They don't really want to invest on it unless they already have the sale made with the customer that they know is going to spend $200 for a piece. So a lot of that goes online.
Ken, I think the big question that most people have is price of vinyl. What's that look like this coming year?
Well, that's a pretty good question. So it was announced just a week or so before. I didn't get the announcement personally. I don't know exact date that they announced it, but the Warner Music Group, or sometimes called WMX, or used to be called WEA, raised the prices of their vinyl starting in this beginning of this year by 5%, which they say is the additional cost that they incur in overhead and expenses and manufacturing and all those things over the past 2-3 years since the last time they had a price increase. And it's probably true. 5% isn't really a tremendous price hike. But, vinyl is kind of expensive. It can be. And so I don't know if it's a $20 record, now it's 21, right? So you might notice it. I mean, it's a noticeable difference in the price because the vinyl start with is kind of expensive to a degree. I mean, depending on how you look at it.
And obviously every retailer has their own specific type of markup that they're looking at markets. I found here in Denver, vinyl's a lot more expensive than when I was in Michigan. Generally it's upcharged more. It could just be, maybe for the employees' salaries, things like that. But yeah, I mean, it would just been that. It's always the big talk. I'm getting out of vinyl. I'm going to CDs. What you said, CD sales are increasing, and we've heard that from a lot of vinyl people. Just CDs are cheaper, but vinyl is still increasing, and it might be because newer people are getting into it. I mean, the young probably still keep doing it because it's still cool.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And from what I've seen, some of the data we've seen too, that there are new people getting into vinyl all the time. It's not slowing down; it's gaining steam still with newer fans. So there's a very bright future for vinyl.
I think when you talk about price increases, and Warner, to their credit, I think has been one of the labels that has really kind of held for the past couple of years, at least, held that down. One of the biggest selling ones coming through from our store, at least, I can always rely on selling a copy of Fleetwood Mac Rumors. And for the past several years, that has been holding at the suggested retail price of about $25 straight up. And I think that's a good, from my opinion and my standpoint, that's a good price point for a lot of folks who just want a record that they're going to get and play all the time. So hopefully, the 5% on that 25 is not going to be a whole lot, but over time, I guess that kind of stacks up and that will cut into other sales. But I can see, Warner's got this catalog that is so deep and so rich that that they've got these varying levels. And I don't know, I don't pretend to know how the decisions go into deciding what a suggested retail price is going to be, but it has to be tied to demand. You take bigger records, bigger demand, or maybe this artist or this group no longer has licensing. Maybe Warner owes that or somebody else does. So all of that's got to factor in, I would imagine, into deciding the price of a specific piece. So saying a 5% across the board is good, but you're still going to have some that are more expensive than others.
Yeah, you certainly are. And you're looking at Warner's a great, like you say, trove of great records from the past. And then, of course, they put out plenty of new things. So it's really kind of two models there. You've got brand new releases. What they cost is factored by maybe one set of criteria. And then, a reissue of something that came out in the 70s that's got a different criteria, right? I mean, they've already made back their original investment, for instance, on that record from the 70s. And however, it might have to do with the contract that's attached to it, whether it's favorable to the record company and inexpensive, or costs a lot. Like, let's just say Beatles catalog, for instance. They can leverage the Beatles people, the copyright owners behind the Beatles, expect to get paid, and they expect to get paid better as a percentage and amount of money than the screaming nobodies get. And they earn it, they get it, they demand it, and it still sells. So there are different models for different things, and the Warner folks have done a really good job of kind of figuring out some very sweet spots. Like they've got this Now Playing series. Are you familiar with that?
Very much. Yeah.
So, which is great for, the basic concept there is, let's take roughly 10 of this artist's better known tracks, put it on a very affordable entry level record. It's the greatest hits package, and put it out there and let somebody who's just kind of a tertiary fan or a new fan of an artist have a way to get into that artist. And then, if they're into them and that works, they want more. And then the next record they buy may be one of their actual full-length regular releases, and they're usually not going to be quite as cheap as that. But that's, I'm sure, negotiated with the artist or the artist management.
Steve and I have talked about the Now Playing series specifically a lot over the past year or so, because I've always thought that, like you, that's a great way to get folks into it. And the $20 price point for now, as of now, they're still around $20, I think is a great way to do it. And I look at the packaging of it. It's not terrible, but they're all, you can see that it is an absolute template that they just dropped the new photo of the artist in. Yeah. The backs are all pretty much identical in their layout and everything. So they're saving money on design and just dropping in stock photos or, licensed photos of the artist and then pressing them and then giving you a little color dip once in a while in those. So I think that's a great way to do it. But what's also cool, and, Rhino is under the Warner umbrella still, correct?
Yep, sure.
So you're looking at Warner offering 3 levels, and the kind of the way I look at this, you've got the Now Playing series, which is that introductory price point, $20. They've recently introduced what's called the Rhino Reserve, and they've got a certain number of older albums that they're reissuing under the Rhino Reserve that comes in at around the $32 mark, and then Rhino has been doing these audiophile reissues coming in around $40, which are very high quality. And I know, Steve, you picked up a few of those from either the Stooges and Sabbath or ZZ Top.
I've kind of pick and choose what I want on that, especially if I need it in my collection. Then it's kind of worth going after. And I do like the 3 price points. I just want to go back real quick on the greatest hits. When I was young, getting into music, first buying albums, I just bought greatest hits because I wanted the hits, but then it got me into other groups and I began. So just what they're saying, what they want to do, give something inexpensive. It's perfect for the new listener to go out and do it. I think that's a great concept on there. And now as I am old with gray hair, these Rhino Reserves, this high fidelity stuff, it does capture your interest more because I can afford to buy it. Some people will moan and groan about it, but that's okay. There's other levels. But it did sound really good. That Howling, where the Howling Wolf came from, Acoustic Sounds. But the ZZ Top it sounded very, very good, the ones I bought. And I did buy a Black Sabbath on that too, yeah.
I agree that those packaging and not only the vinyl, but the packaging on some of those Rhino Reserve and Rhino Hi-Fi are a step up. They're spending extra money, getting the very high gloss jackets, and some of them have OB strips, I think, and the tip-on jackets, the Stilton, or it's probably, I think it's a different company, but very similar style. So you're really getting a super nice collectible, piece when you pick it up and you look at it and hold it, and it looks great, sounds great. If you just got to have the best version of that, whatever record it is, that might be the one. I mean, they learned from Acoustic Sounds and they learned from Mobile Fidelity, and some of these people have been doing this for a while, that there's a fan base out there that'll pay that kind of money to have the best version of it.
Yeah. Well, it's been crazy when you think MoFi has been around for 50 years. They've been putting out product. Kind of they had that niche by themselves until really this whole vinyl resurgence came. Everyone else going, well, wait a sec. There's people out there willing to put this money out. And now you get $100 album on some of these, $125 album. And people are buying them. To your point, Ken, if it's selling, everyone else is looking at it, they go, okay, we need to get into this. I can just see them at the board game. Look at this. We need to do this too.
The Warner stuff especially too, I think when they get to that audiophile level, you mentioned a sweet spot, and I think with the audiophile releases themselves, they're hitting that sweet spot. You're getting something that sounds really nice. It's got the heavy duty packaging that feels good and looks good, but you're not paying the level of Mobile Fidelity or an analog. And Steve and I have talked about this before too. You reach a certain age where the ears just can't pick up that much of a difference. And I know some people do, and I'll take heed on this. It depends on your ears. It depends on your system. It depends on the release you've got. It depends on the mastering. But at what point do you say this is worth $40 of my hard-earned versus $150 for a bigger box set, and is the sound quality going to be that much different on that? That's a judgment call.
Agree, but yeah, so much. And I had been buying some of those real expensive ones. I go, you know what? I'm not getting more out of it right now, so let's go down.
One other way to look at it too, though, is this: if you invest in one of these things and there's a limited run of them, then there may be somebody out there willing to take it off your hands for like twice what you paid for it. So
that's true.
Some people are doing that too.
That is true.
But we're collectors. We don't want to get rid of our stuff. Just leave our stuff alone.
Fight that fight. Ken, do you see more of this type of thing from, I know Warner's the big dog right now, but you get UMG in there as well. Do you see a lot more of this? We're going to approach this from a tiered aspect of say, we're going we're going to attack it with a real low price point to get some folks in, and then offer differing levels of some of these, especially with reissues?
I'm trying to think of, I've seen a lot of tiering from the others. I do know that some of the Columbia Sony catalog vinyl, they're keeping it at 140 gram and keeping the price low. It's to an audiophile, maybe that's not what you want, but they continue to offer those so that you get some lower price points that way, and you're able to get, I don't know, a Dylan or Boston record or something for still a reasonable price relative to the marketplace. So I've noticed that. Other than that, I'm trying to think of, there's not a lot of tiering from the others that I recall seeing.
How do independent labels factor into the bigger picture of what we're looking forward in 2026? Are there a lot of indie labels out there that are fighting not only for pressing plant time, but just for the attention of people up against these bigger labels?
Well, there certainly are. It's a really robust world of independents still. I can't say whether they're growing or not growing necessarily, but I just know they seem to be very healthy. And pressing plant wise, I believe from what I'm hearing is that there's not the crunch that there used to be. Those independents can get time on the presses if they need it. And for the most part, they can get their records out on time. They can get enough press to meet demand and all that. There's, I'm sure, advantages and disadvantages that I really couldn't get into for these independent labels remaining independent. But there are plenty of them, and they seem to be doing well for the most part.
Well, I look at a Bandcamp. I'm more and more now just trying to find new music, and you can only buy it through Bandcamp. So there is so many records and groups putting out stuff on vinyl on these independent labels. I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling at times when you look at this, how much is coming out. But if I want to get it, I can't find it in the store. I have to go through the Bandcamp and to get that stuff. But you're right, seems to be a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there've been other cases of these bands and they're very small labels. In some cases, it's their label. Mm-hmm. They're still able to get stuff pressed these days. So that's fortunate. I mean, the pressing plants have kind of caught up to the needs. Yeah. It took a while. There were logistical issues. There wasn't, as that equipment got old, it wasn't good anymore, so that you couldn't buy the old stuff. They weren't making new copies of the manufacturing stuff, and only certain numbers of people knew how to work on them and fix them, right? So It took a while. It wasn't anything they could do overnight, but now there's plenty, I believe.
When we've talked, well, even with Michael, who put out that record, and I've talked to some other folks, and they have been able to, they said it really wasn't a wait, like last year putting out their albums. They were able to get them in, get them pressed, and get them out, which is great. That is good news. We still see those delays if Taylor Swift decides to put out an album. The world stops. The world just stops. And everybody wants a piece of that one. But otherwise,
in that case, I think you're looking at an independent artist that will contract with some of these smaller plants or offshoot plants, the smaller plants, basically, in the pressings. And if you're saying, okay, we need 500, 600, or 1,000 of these pressed, that's something that could be done relatively quickly versus something where they're pressing several 100,000, if not more, for a major somebody, Miss TS.
So this year, one of my pledges is I'm not buying any more box sets because I don't have any room. So the whole hope is there are no more box sets coming out. So I'm not tempted to break my New Year's resolution like I did last year. So is this true? We're pretty much done with box sets, Ken.
Oh, yeah, because they don't. No, wait, they sell great, and they make somebody a good bit of money. So there will be plenty of them coming for sure. The one I heard about this week that was interesting is Tori Amos. Did you hear about this one, Jim?
No.
Strange Little Girls. So Strange Little Girls has not been on vinyl. I guess it was in that era that they didn't press stuff on vinyl, that few years in the 90s or something. So anyway, there were 12 images of Tori in this Strange Little Girls artwork originally.
Yeah.
So now they're going to put it out as either 12 different records, each with a different image of Tori on the front of it, or a box set with all 12 together.
Why not both?
It's all the same record, but it's 12 different images.
Wow.
So
same record.
Same record. 12 different covers.
Okay.
So if you think the box set is dead, I'm pretty sure you're wrong.
Well, the 50th anniversary, still coming in with all of these, there's so many good albums back in 76. And that's what, I really love that early punk. And I keep going, oh God, they're going to start releasing box sets of this early punk. The Talking Heads has been hard enough. And I was just thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Because my self-control sucks.
Well, I think the key with box sets is that they have to make them attractive. Let's go back to the Wish You Were Here from last year. They did a great job making that an attractive box set, and a couple of different levels. The 3 LP one wasn't quite the box set, but then they jumped that up to the bigger box. And I think for a lot of us collectors, and from my standpoint at the store, you've got to balance that. What's in this? What's unique about it? Versus what kind of price we're looking at. If you're going to put out a 12 record or 12 LP box set, you're looking at $500-$600 at that point, which is going to be real high end people wanting that only.
With all the same records in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, sticker shock is a big deal in box sets.
It is. You look at, those Ozzy Osbourne or a Kiss box set, what they go and they go, huh? Who can afford that? Then they buy them and they should skyrocket up in price. Everyone, and suddenly I'm going to pay all that money for that. It's incredible. Yeah. I like a box set that has stuff. It's just that stuff that we're not going to touch. We've got a poster that we'll never put up, that will keep folded in there forever, probably never look at it again, but we just feel good about it because it's stuff that's in there. And so I got a sticker. I'm not going to stick it anywhere. I got a sticker though. But it's what kind of makes it exciting. I bought, there was a Nick Drake one last year and they had a very nice book in there, but the demos, they sounded just beautiful. I couldn't believe how nice they sounded, but they did a great job. The packaging looked good. As Jim said, the Wish You Were Here was great. He's waiting on the Animals one now. So I can't tell you, Jim, if I'm jumping at that one. Okay. I don't know yet.
We'll wait and see. I think that's a 77, if I recall. We'll have to
77. It would be 77. So we got one more year to save up. But do you see that? So you do see that trend, more of these kind of probably going to be coming out then?
I would think so. Yeah. It's done well. And it did remind me what something you said about the collectability of these. So these intricate box sets with all the bells and whistles and all the tchotchkes and collectible pieces in them, right? That makes them more difficult and slower to manufacture. So in a lot of cases, they are going to be a one and done or one run pressing, and that's it, because it's difficult to put these things back together, and they have to, create all these different pieces, bring them all together. A lot of times that has to be done by hand. So it's expensive and takes time. So in a lot of cases, the box sets are really a one shot.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, George Harrison put out a box set. It was in an actual wooden box, and there was like pieces, almost like chess pieces and stuff in there. It was super expensive. They began to clearance that sucker out eventually. All these people that's paid full price, I just saw it going on. I go, they're dropping the price. They're dropping the price. They found the breaking point where people decided to go, no, I'm not going to spend that much finally.
Yeah.
Well, I think it does really depend a great deal on the release too. And Steve and I tend to make fun of the group Aha from time to time here on the podcast. And they put out the box set commemorating the Aha release. And okay, that's all well and good. And if you're a fan, yes, I'm sure in Europe they've got a lot more. They got a lot more hits that people can draw from. But I think you need a better base of material. I'm not slamming Aha in this case, but something a lot more attractive to more masses to get folks interested in that.
I couldn't put up a defense for Aha, really, to be honest with you, but I would imagine what you're saying is somewhere in Europe they are big enough where they can put out a box set.
Yes,
They are.
More power
Yes, they
to
are.
them, because I'm sure that there are folks like me who are saying, "Oh, can't Rush? Come on." I bought that big ass Rush box set last year, so I'm not gonna throw stones here. How's that?
Yeah. We are working on getting Aha to our podcast. I'm working on that.
Are
Jim.
you? Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll take them on then, is what you're saying.
Well, take on me, man.
Well, one other thing, Ken, before we wrap up this week's episode, they just recently announced the Record Store Day date for 2026. It's coming. It's moved back up. Last year they moved it back because of Easter, but it's back on April 18th this year. That's a big day. Not only for collectors like Steve or stores like ours, but it's a huge run up for folks like you in the record slinging side of things. This is the big show, so to speak, for the industry in April, isn't it?
It is. It's usually the biggest single day music sales wise of the year for stores, and for wholesale, of course, leading up to it. Same thing. The weeks leading up to it are the biggest weeks of the year for us too. So we're busy, and it's those are the long days. But it's good. It's gratifying to see how well it's doing. It's really important to everybody in the business, I think, nowadays. People have become accustomed to having it as part of their overall business.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing how many records come out now on it when you think back through the years, what there was. And, it's to these overwhelming lists. Let's look. I know when Jim and I go through, it's like, what are we even looking at here? There's so much, but they have to offer. There's so many different now types of people collecting records. It's just not a bunch of old gray-haired guys.
And yeah, they diversify quite a bit to the appeal to have some stuff for people who are newer collectors and some of the like a lot of the younger female pop artists now are involved in Record Store Day. The Sabrina Carpenters of the world, those sorts of folks they'll have Record Store Day records too. And, people our age probably aren't buying too many of those, but plenty of people are. And they're not only they are, but they're excited about it. And they're lining up and they're social media and the whole 9 yards. And it helps grow the whole pie, which is great for everybody.
You just hit the nail on the head. They're lining up in social media, and man, I too often we hear these videos. People complain, "Oh, this stuff and that." The fact is, there's 20,000 of these out there because they will line up to get it, and they will. I think the social media, we often forget about that. The aspect is they're so excited about this, they're spreading that out there as I got this, and people go, "Wow, I want to do that."
Yeah. And it makes those same people pay attention to the record store because you can't get them from SabrinaCarpenter.com or Target or, wherever else. Mm-hmm. It's actually an independent record store. They have to discover where their independent record store is if they don't already know and visit it.
It's a big day for everyone involved. But and you guys at AMS, you're one of only 2 distributors of Record Store Day material, correct? That's kind of a big deal too.
That's correct. Yeah, there's just 2.
You never have anybody upset when you tell them, well, there was going to be all this, but there's only going to be this now. And everyone's really, that's okay, Ken. We understand and we're good with that. You just give us one and that's all right.
Yeah, that's exactly like it's that week that I think that my other job title should be, professional counselor to record store owners because they're so upset.
I will absolutely attest to this, Steve. Here's a little inside behind the scenes. The week or 2 leading up, Ken is a fantastic person to work with, but I feel for you, man. I know that I try to be, from my standpoint in our little store here in Midland, I try to be as gentle as possible and not overwhelm. But, once in a while I got to call up and say, hey, what about this? I know that's the rough time of year.
Hey,
for
Ken,
you.
Ken, Amoeba's on the line. They'd like to talk to you.
Versus Jim.
Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah.
You guys,
I feel,
by the way, you guys do a great job with that every year, and it's a lot more complex. I mean, this is maybe a whole nother episode down the line, but it's a whole lot more complex than folks normally would think about in the lead up to this. I mean, the folks at Record Store Day do a great job. A thankless job in a lot of cases, assembling the list. As we found out last year, the stores do their part, but you guys are in the middle between the labels and Record Store Day and the little stores like ours. You guys are sandwiched right in there trying to keep everybody happy on both sides.
Yeah, that's right. And you can't, we have relationships with everybody that you just mentioned, right? So, and those are valuable too. So we do try to do the best we can by everybody. Our customers come first, but also by the labels and, of course, Record Store Day, their folks as well. We work directly with them, and that's a very important part of the whole puzzle.
Okay, so when we're getting the list, then
I can't tell you that. If I knew, I couldn't tell you that, but I don't know either.
No, we usually have an idea, so that's all fun. All right. Well, is there anything else, Ken, that you wanted to add about 2026? Are you looking forward to the next now 11 and a half months leading into this year in vinyl?
I'm very optimistic about 2026 from a vinyl standpoint. So bring it on. Let's do it.
All right. Steve, anything else from you? You're holding true? You're not going to get any box sets until that Ramones one comes out, right?
Yeah, we're just not going to do it because I'm just hoping Ken's wrong and none are coming out.
You have it on good authority, probably not. So. All right, folks, you have been watching and or listening to Two Guys Talking About Records, a vinyl community podcast where actually today it was three guys. Joining us throughout this episode once again is Mr. Ken Norton from All Media Supply. He is the guy that I go to on a weekly basis, by the way, to make the fun happen here at Radio Wasteland, and could not do it without you, Ken. Thank you again very much for all you do on that side.
Thank you.
Jim, you're the guy I go to. So
yes.
I go to you, you go to him. So,
yeah, there we go.
Yes, we have this chain.
Up the chain. It's the maybe the circle be unbroken, so to speak. So
yes.
One last thing though, Ken. You keep mentioning this group. Now, Steve, being as impressionable as he is going to go out and start looking for them. The Screaming Nobodies that you've mentioned a couple times. We need to find out where they're from, how limited their releases are, and where can we get a hold of them.
That's right.
They're so underground that you are going to have a hard time finding them.
I'll find them.
You will. All right. So once again, Ken, thank you very much for joining us this week. And until next time, my name is Jim, and I own a record store.
And I am Steve. I am a record collector.
Ken, thanks again. You folks
Bye,
have a
everyone.
great week, everyone.